As I've gone along my spiritual journey, I've fallen into a few what I call spiritual traps that not only I've fallen into, but I've noticed a lot of people fall into. Some people never get out of these traps. And I just want to identify some of the ones that I believe are totally avoidable. They're not really necessary along your journey, or maybe they are to a certain degree, but you don't need to spend too long in them. So I want to go over what these traps are, why they are traps, and how you can avoid them. That's coming up next. So before we jump into it, my name is Dave, and this is HeartSpace if you're new to the channel, where I am creating videos every single day to help you along your heart path, to really help you move into that beautiful, fulfilling reality that you have in your mind and that your heart will lead you to the more you tap into it. Now, one thing that is going to help you do that I can offer you immediately is to get my free course down below that's going to help you invite miracles into your life, and sometimes it can even do so in as little as 3 days. Again, I would get that down below for free in the description. Now, without further ado, let's go over what some of these spiritual traps are so you can stop getting trapped in them or recognize a trap when you're in one. So let's go, starting in reverse order with number 5. Number 5 is a big one, and it's not trusting appearances, or I would say the trap is trusting appearances, and that's it. Trusting something at just surface level. Now, when you're living a more just only physical existence and you don't know what you actually are, that you're an energetic being, an infinite divine co-created being in a human body, it's very easy to get trapped in appearances because you put more emphasis on the physical world. However, there's a mentor of mine that actually does a whole masterclass on just this topic of not trusting appearances, because it is a master skill to navigating life, because there are 1,000,001 people that will try and appear a certain way and lead you astray when their intentions are not pure. And that is why you don't trust appearances, but instead trust the energy, because energy cannot lie to you. Energy is pure, and energy can't be manipulated in the sense of it presenting itself in one way but be something different. But appearances absolutely can. For example, just because someone dresses a certain way or kind of shows a certain thing on social media or whatever else it is, doesn't mean they're that tuned into spirit. I'll see people who, and I've known people who have met these people, and I've met them myself, and we just kind of call them spiritual bypassers. Now, it's where they are in their journey. There's no right or wrong to it, but I don't want you falling into the trap of then trying to mimic or really take on board what these people are saying, because their energy might be off even though they look the part. So whatever the stereotypical spiritual garb is, saying the right things, whatever else it is, that's great. And also someone could totally be in the work and look that way. So I'm not saying like, oh, if someone looks a certain way, they're absolutely not connected to spirit. What I am saying is that's not the defining factor of what determines if someone is actually doing the work, right? It's very easy to get the clothes and look the part. It takes a little more work to do the actual inner work, the shadow work, to actually tune into what you are, to actually align with that and confidently move from that, shining your light in your everyday life. And so I'm not saying it couldn't be both ways, but what I am saying is don't trust only the appearance if that resonates with you, right? So really feel out the energy. Is what they're saying, is what they're doing, is their energy connecting and resonating with you, or does something feel off to you? Because that intuitive knowing, that's a guiding system. That's your emotional guiding system. It's there for a reason. And so if the appearance looks like what you think it should, but the energy feels off, again, I believe that's a trap. And there definitely are people who will work those appearances or use their appearance in order to present themselves in the way that they think you want them to in order to get something from you. So the first one is essentially don't trust appearances, or don't fall in the trap of trusting only appearances. One last example I'll give you is someone like Eckhart Tolle, for example, when he was going through his spiritual awakening, was homeless. He did not look the stereotypical part of an awakened person, but during that year he was more connected to Source, or 2 years I think, he was more connected to Source than probably most people on the planet, but very few people would understand it or know it, because if they looked at just his appearance, it would be like, oh, he's just a homeless bum or whatever else it is, when in reality, this guy just walking around sleeping on benches was more tuned into what we all are than most on the planet at the time. In fact, if that resonates with you, put in the comments, I am an energetic being, or some version of that, one that you really resonate with, and we'll move on now to number 4. Now, number 4 is a massive one, and again, this ties into the last one, but it's a little bit different, and a trap to really avoid is someone who tries to do your thinking for you. They're basically saying, you should think this way, and if they throw in a nice little twist of emotional blackmail, then I absolutely recommend running the other way and not to fall into this trap. You see, one of the funny things about when you become more spiritual, and when I say become more spiritual, I don't mean you can't actually become more spiritual. You are a spiritual being in a human body, even if you have no clue about that, even if you're the most asleep person, you can't take away the objective reality that you are a spiritual being in a human body. But what I mean by being spiritual is connecting more to that. The more connected you are, allowing that connection to come through. But what I'm getting at in this one is the trap of allowing someone to do your thinking for you. They're basically telling you, you have to think this way, black or white thinking, my way or the highway. This is the only way to do it. And again, whether that person's trying to appear as a spiritual teacher, whether that person is someone in the news, it doesn't appears like an expert. Again, in my eyes, I would run the other way and use your own discernment. Develop your own discernment and intuition, which is again going to look past the appearances of everyone who's doing this and really get to that core feeling center to see if it's something you should move towards or move away from. And so to not really allow anyone to do your thinking for you. Take inspiration from what someone's saying. So for example, if I say something and it connects with your heart and resonates with you, then absolutely, if you believe that's going to be helpful, take it away and apply it into your own life. But nothing I say should be gospel. I'm just trying to allow what's coming through to be conveyed to you. That's all. But I would never say to you, hey, you got to do it this way, or your life's going to be miserable. Hey, you got to do it this way, or da-da-da-da-da. I try very much not to have my ego tied into this. And anyone who does, this is like the difference between a spiritual teacher who's actually benevolent and trying to help people and a cult leader, right? A cult leader is essentially asking people to worship them and pedestalize them, where a spiritual guru or teacher or someone who actually is that and is benevolent and is doing it for the good of not only themselves, the people around them, and the planet and universe as a whole, they'll never be like, hey, I'm attached to whether you listen to me or not. They are just there giving their gift, shining their light, because that's what they're naturally really pulled towards doing. And again, the way to really avoid this type of person who's going to try and tell you what to do and say it has to be this way, you have no other choice, etc., etc., we've all experienced this to some degree, is to develop your own discernment and intuition, and it's going to help you navigate so much of this. So if you've gotten something out of this or it resonates with you so far, I would love it if you would hit the like button. That helps us get out to more heart-centered people along this path. And now let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is another big one, and this is probably one of the biggest and most obvious traps, but still so many people not only get into it, but they stay in it for a long period of time, and it's not taking action. You are a co-creative being. You are not a being that's just going to sit on the couch and inspiration comes in and you wash over on that inspiration and then magic's going to happen in the outside world. If you want certain things in the outside realm, you have to adhere to, yes, physical principles. However, you can use the energetic inward principles to influence the physical realm in magical ways, because the physical realm comes from the inner. But you are a co-creative being. And so when you're connecting to Source, and then Source gives you that amazing inspiration to move in that direction, like let's say it's this direction, if you don't move in that direction, nothing's going to happen, because you are co-creative. The universe is literally giving you a blueprint saying, hey, you go down that way, magic's going to happen in your life. And then you're like, I just need to allow it and let it come in and surrender. Why isn't my life changing? I just need to allow it to come in and sit here and it'll fall in my lap. Why is nothing changing? Things seem to be getting worse. I feel pretty good, but like things are getting worse, because you allow things in by feeling good and being in high levels of consciousness. And if that's all you want, that's completely fine. There are people who go, like, monks, for example, don't want any material possessions. That's a lot of what they're doing, meditating, connecting to that inner realm, feeling amazing all the time, completely grounded and calm. But they also don't want to really participate too much in the physical realm, at least a lot of those kind of sects of monks and different belief systems in that realm. So they're not really looking to do that. But if you do want abundance in the physical realm, if you do want to participate in the physical expression of what you are, then it does require you to participate in that by co-creating. For those of you who are in rising abundance, you'll know this very well, that again, the outer world follows the inner. I give you some amazing tools and things to tap into that so abundance comes flowing into your life. If you want to learn more about that, by the way, just hit the link down in the description. But remember, you are a co-creative being. There's no getting around that. And if you do want to experience certain things in the physical, you have to take action. But I'm not telling you to be a hustler or a grinder. That doesn't work. I'm not telling you to be busy being busy. I'm telling you to allow the inspiration to come in and then move from that inspiration. And guess what? When you're moving from inspiration, it doesn't feel like work. You think these videos feel like work to me? You know, some people might watch these and go like, how are you making these videos? How are you like this on camera? Like, you're doing it every day. Isn't that exhausting? It's energizing. I almost cursed there. I effing love it. I could curse, I don't know why I didn't there, but I didn't want to. But I love it so much. I'm gonna feel more energized walking away from this than maybe even when I started, because this is inspired action. And when you're co-creating with life, that's what it feels like. I don't know if you're getting the energy transfer from me right now, but this is what it feels like when you're co-creating from inspiration. Number 2, speaking of actions, is not facing your shadows. A lot of people get into going down the spiritual path and then they kind of hit a road bump and stay still because a shadow is there that they need to work through or something they need to release, and they're very reluctant to do it because it's facing a fear, it's going outside your comfort zone. But not facing your shadows will keep you stuck. It will keep you in place. And if maybe you've been stuck on something for a long time now, it's probably because there's a shadow or something you need to shine the light on that you've been avoiding and pushing back down. And every time it comes up, you're like, no. Or maybe even every time it comes back up, you've used even a spiritual tool that just distracts you from it, even though the universe is leading you to looking at this shadow and really integrating that shadow, shining the light on it, because a shadow is just a part of you that hasn't been seen. It's just a part of you that has not had the light shown on it. When you shine the light on shadows, what happens? They become a part of the light. They become light. Every shadow is just potential light, but you have to shine the light on it. You have to look at it. You have to work through it for that to happen. And yes, it can be scary, and I understand it, but you will never regret facing your shadows and actually allowing that to really move through and out and become a part of the light. And isn't it great that the light started shining as I said that? And number 1 is an interesting one and a little more nuanced, and something you'll find the further along your journey you've gone. So you've probably gone through quite a little bit of growth and transformation at this point, and it's limitation thinking, but not in the way you're thinking maybe when I say that. What I mean is thinking that something that worked even on your journey years ago is still going to work today. Now, here's what I mean by that. A lot of times in our mind, if something worked in the past and we are presented with a problem, we think we have to use that same thing now today, instead of tuning into our intuition, bringing us to the solution. Now, your intuition may bring you to the solution that worked for you years ago, but a lot of times it will not, because you've expanded since then and you don't need that tool as much anymore, and there's something new on the edge of your comfort zone and expansion for you to use. For example, I have a mentor who talked about how many years ago he went 3 months of full raw vegan for his health because he wanted to lose weight, he wanted more energy, and he used it essentially as an elimination diet, and he felt amazing after those 3 months. Many years went by and he was having, I think, a similar problem with, I don't know if it was like weight issues, I mean, he was never that big, but like maybe some health issues, energy issues, he was eating a little poorly. So his first instinct was to go back and do that raw vegan thing. But not that long into it, he intuitively realized, because he's doing the inner work, meditating and everything, that he was only doing that again because it was ego-based in the results it got him in the past, and it wasn't actually what he needed right now. It served him in the past, but he expanded beyond that, and there was actually something else trying to come through in the moment. And so sometimes we even take things that once worked for us in the past and use them to limit ourselves in the now. And again, sometimes these can be congruent and you will use the same thing, but it's just to use your intuition and discernment for what it is you're actually being led to at this very moment. Because it may not be the same thing that helped you years ago, because that's what you needed years ago, but you're an expanding being, always experiencing more of what you actually are, so you're going to be different if you're on this journey years from now than you are right now, and you're probably different if you've been on this journey for a while than you were years before. I mean, if I just look back like 3 or 4 years ago, holy crap am I different? Holy crap am I moving differently and acting differently and using different tools? So that's something to keep in mind as well, and can be a trap the further along this journey you go. It's not to necessarily think just because it helped you in the past it's going to help you now. Again, it might, but to tune into your intuition to discover what that's actually going to be for you now in this moment. So thank you so much for watching and persisting with the light changing. It keeps going light and then dark. I'm using natural light, so thank you so much. Now, one thing you're going to notice as you're going through some of these is that I'm talking about a lot of 3D things that tether people, and ultimately we're aiming to get to the 5D, which is where we're connecting more to spirit and then bringing that into the physical. So if you want to learn how to shift from the 3D to the 5D, how to go about that, practices that will help, watch this video next where I go over exactly how to do this, how to really honor the inner spiritual world more than you do the physical, which is then going to beautify your physical. So I'd go check that out next.